This is the Desert Shaman. I thought I would talk about Tantra yoga. Just invite you into my little space here, have a seat, relax. And we're going to talk about something that people have a lot of misconceptions about. We're going to talk about Tantra, Tantra, Tantra yoga. Tantra yoga is a wonderful device for enlightenment, even spontaneous enlightenment. Let's talk about it a little bit. Well, you know, in the 60s and 70s, around that era, that's when it kind of blossomed, or came into being more amongst the people that were, let's say, hippie types, or whatever you want to call them in that era. People that were searching, people that were open enough to have different views, were open enough to try different forms of spirituality. Now, Tantra is a form of spirituality. It's a meditation. Okay, it's a yoga. Yoga means union. Yoga means union, and that could be union with the divine. That could be union with another being on the planet. And so Tantra at times was identified with just raising your consciousness through sex. In other words, getting your partner and yourself into a situation where you were both enlightened enough to be able to use the sexual energy as a means of enlightenment, or as a means of raising your consciousness. Your consciousness. But Tantra is very, very much more than just two partners raising their consciousness with sex. It's actually more of a way of life. It's a way of looking at life. It's a way of cruising through life in a meditative state of mind. Don't we need that now because of all the shit that's going on in the world? This can really help you if you pay attention. It really is more about a philosophy. It's more about a way of thinking. Are there other let's say, what's the word I'm looking for here? Techniques or ritual that is involved with that? Yes, there is. And you can use other techniques like Kriya Yoga, which is, Kriya means the movement of energy. Basically what Tantra is not only a way of looking at life, but it's a way of learning how to use the energy that surrounds you, which is called prana or chi, depending on what area you're coming from historically. I mean, prana was a term used by the Hindu tradition indicating the spirit that moves in all things, as the natives would say, or the energy that flows within the universe and within us, and just the whole soup, the whole ocean of energy. That ocean of energy is called prana, or in more Chinese terms, or that area of the globe, it would be called chi. In that tradition, in that, let's say, the martial arts tradition, for example, you would call that energy chi. And when you go to an acupuncture, what he does or she does is treat the meridians in your body where the chi flows through it. A lot of people say, oh man, there's no chi, it hasn't been identified scientifically. You don't need to. You don't need to. If you're on the ball and you know what you're doing, first, science has a long way to go before it even gets close to what I'm talking about. You have to experience it. So, when you use different methods, let's say like Kundalini yoga, or Tantra yoga, or Kriya yoga, to activate energy and to be able to control it and to be able to use it to your advantage, both on a health level and on a spiritual, physical, combined level, or just on a spiritual level. Of course, spiritual affects physical. There's no getting around that. So if you can get your mind in tune, your consciousness in tune, then it's going to filter on down to the physical, because the physical being is basically just a slowed down, coagulated form of energy, just like, let's say, the table or the chair or the wall. Something that you conceive of as hard is actually just slowed down vibration, slowed down energy. Bear with me here. So in order to use the energy that is surrounding you and the energy that is you, because you are made up of energy, your body's made up of energy, in order for your higher self, your Atman or your para-Atman, that's what it's called in Hindu terms, in order for that ghost in the machine to connect and, let's say, balance out your energy, then you have to be in tune. You have to use a device such as Tantra or meditation, or some people even use drugs. That's acceptable. Even the ancient sadhus, or the ancient holy men, sometimes used psychotropic drugs. Sometimes they used cannabis. Ayahuasca, whatever you want to use is okay, as long as it's not a dependent thing. As long as it's a thing that puts you into a different conscious state so that you can access higher conscious states, or to realize, in fact, that you don't need anything. It's okay. It's all okay. Life is all okay. Tantra is a way of looking at life like it's all okay. Whatever goes on around us, whatever is us, whatever is perceived by our senses, is just none other than consciousness manifesting itself. It's the Shiva. It's the creator. And when Shiva is basically like the divine emanation, it's almost immobile. It would just sit there and be, if it didn't have the Shakti energy, and the Shakti energy is the feminine energy. So you get Shiva, which is the divine masculine energy, although he can be androgynous too. Why? Just like most godheads, is because he manifests the Shakti energy. And the Shakti energy is movement, is creation, is the movement of the soup manifesting itself in 1,000,000 points of light, or billions of points of light, like the people on the planet. They're all a part of Shiva Shakti, they just don't know it. They're clueless. They don't realize that they have these energies at work, not only within them, but all around them. So, what Tantra does is educate you as to, or gives you the knowledge and wisdom to know that consciousness is it. A lot of people spend years and years and years meditating and going through all these rituals and all this stuff and denying themselves, which is something else I'm going to get into. They try to nip desire in the bud. Well, desire is to be used according to the ancient Tantric tradition. Now there's always schools of thought, with Tantra or with any meditation. There's the right-hand path and the left-hand path. Let me explain what the right-hand path and the left-hand path is. The right-hand path is those that try to subdue their natural instincts and become kind of an ascetic, and they deny themselves of a lot of things because they think that these things may be keeping them from having an elevated level of consciousness or enlightenment. They deny themselves. They only eat certain foods. They might not have sex. They might deny themselves. That's the right-hand path. The left-hand path is like, that all goes out the window. The left-hand path is we use everything in our environment to elevate our consciousness. You might see it getting darker in here because my door has a way of closing itself when the wind comes up, and maybe even when I talk about stuff that is, I'll try to get a little light on the subject, but it's okay, we can just sit here and talk just like this, because I'm not going to get up. My words are what's important here. So anyway, we're talking about the right hand and the left hand path. The left hand path is everything is acceptable, everything should be looked at as consciousness. Consciousness is acceptable because consciousness is Shiva. Consciousness is the creator. Consciousness is the creator and the active force of Shakti, which is, again, the feminine force, coming on down and manifesting itself in a million different ways. Everything you see in your reality is composed of Shiva and Shakti. And there's all different kinds of aspects, shall I say, aspects. And those are sometimes portrayed as gods and goddesses. Like there's the goddess Kali, or the goddess Tara, or the goddess Sundari. They all have different forms of energy, let's say. They all exhibit different forms of energy. Now, when you get into this stuff, you realize that when you summon the goddess, let's say through a mantra, that's what mantras are for. A lot of people have heard about mantras. Oh, I got a mantra back in the old days when I was doing transcendental meditation. It's a word that you repeat over and over to focus on, to keep your mind off of traveling around in all kinds of different thought patterns, to calm you and to center you. So a mantra could be any number of words. It could be one word. It could be a seed mantra, a basic mantra. It could be one word again. It could be several words. This is used, these mantras are used because they're primal sounds and they're ancient, go way back to the ancient times where let's say the Tantra tradition took hold. Now, this Tantric tradition that I practice is called Kaula Spanda Pratibhijna. Kaula Spanda Pratibhijna. And that form of Tantra is the left-hand path, and it includes if you want to have sex, if you want to use the sexual energy, both within you and outside of you, that's perfectly acceptable, because that is the Shiva and that is the Shakti. And we all have that within us. We all have it within us. So when a man identifies with his feminine energy or his Shakti energy, then that's a plus for him, because he is able to feel both energies of the universe, the yin and the yang of the universe, or in the duality you could call it negative and positive. So Tantra is a means, the actual definition of Tantra is a means of using energy for enlightenment, a means of using energy and moving energy around. And this can extend out to the farthest reaches of the world. I mean, once you're centered and once you're in tune with Shiva, and once you know that you, in a sense, are God and Goddess, you're God and Goddess, okay? And if you're in a male body, well, that's predominantly what your role is in this life, I would say. So you cultivate the feminine part of yourself, or if you're in a female body, you cultivate the Shiva part of yourself, the masculine, in order to get balance in your life, in order to bring balance in your life. And once that balance is inside of you, then it manifests itself outside of you, okay? So that everything from your core center, or from the ghost in the machine, or from the para-atman, the higher self, that all manifests outwardly, okay? And with each breath you breathe, you create. And then you take in a breath, which recharges your creation abilities. Okay, so you breathe in and you breathe out. And when you breathe out, you create the universe. Basically, the universe being created is being created by you. There's nothing around you except energy, okay? The thought forms that you project out there, like, let's say, your house, or where you live, or your partner, or your dog, or your whatever you see around you, that's all you. That's all within you. And where does this come from? Well, it comes from the subconscious, and it comes from whatever you were indoctrinated with. I like to say brainwashed with, when you came into the societal structure through birth. That's what you tend to project out there. That's why so many people have problems, because they run a tape loop. They run a tape loop that's in their subconscious over and over and over again. They keep creating and producing the same things in their life by running this tape loop over and over. And they may not even know they're running the tape loop, and they may not even know that they're manifesting things in their life. Everything is one. All other individuals, all other animals, all creation, it's all one. We're all one. We are all connected. We cannot not be connected. So, when you get into a discipline like Tantra, you don't just get into it for, let's say, the sexual pleasure, which is okay. I mean, that's okay too, because that's the primal energy. That's the activating life force. That's what gets your juices flowing. That's what's very healing. So desire for another person, or for having a sexual desire, is not like, should not be taken like the Christians or the religions or the organized religions try to portray it as something taboo, something oh, that's naughty, or that's unacceptable, or this should only be performed for procreation or procreative purposes, or this should only be performed in a marriage situation. All of that is bullshit. Throw that stuff out right now, all out of your head. What it's for, what that primal energy, that Shiva Shakti energy for, is to balance you out, to raise your consciousness. Well, you might say, well, how do you raise your consciousness? Well, there's a thing called the serpent energy, the kundalini energy, the coiled snake at the base of the spine. This is something that all in-depth meditators know about. The serpent energy is not as portrayed by Christian religions or by a lot of people that don't know any better as some kind of evil thing. Oh, the snake. Oh my God, it's the Garden of Eden and the snake, and it's Satan the devil. That's all wrong. That's all a misconception. That's something that has been propagated onto the mental consciousness of the collective consciousness by the powers that don't want you to have knowledge, that don't want you to have enlightenment, because the snake in ancient tradition has always been associated with wisdom. And the snake is even portrayed on the caduceus, which is the medical symbol with the sword, the medical association. The snake is knowledge. The snake is enlightenment. So this energy that is coiled at the bottom of your base chakra, and chakras are energy centers on the body, in case you haven't found that out already. You have 7, or you have more, but the main 7 go right down the center of your body. You got the crown chakra and the third eye. You got the throat. You got the heart. Just above the navel, somewhere in that area, you got the solar plexus chakra. Right beneath the navel, about 1.5 inches, you got the Dantian, as it's called in Chinese medicine, or the center, or the second chakra. And then the first chakra is between your legs, right beneath your sexual organs, in that area. Kind of in space there. That's your base chakra. That's what grounds you to the earth. That's where your grounding comes from. And then the second chakra up is the sex chakra, or the chakra of female and male energy, or the sexual energy. And right in that area down there is where the kundalini resides, okay? And it's just sitting there. But some say, in my tradition, it also resides in the heart. The heart chakra. So, when you practice, let's say, a sexual arousal with a partner through breathing, through a type of breath that you learn, which is called pranayama. Remember I said before that prana is the energy of the universe. Pranayama means breathing that energy. But are you breathing oxygen? Well, no, you're not just breathing oxygen. You're doing that, but you're also learning a technique to bring in the prana, or the chi, into your being and have it flow up through the chakras, and then that activates the kundalini, which at some point can awaken. And that pierces your third eye or your crown chakra when it reaches that point, and you become enlightened. And a lot of people have been striving years and years and years to get enlightenment. But what really will help you is not to be so austere, not to be into this, what I call religious ritual, or self-denial, but to realize that you are already enlightened, and that kind of shakes loose the Kundalini, frees it up, knowing that you are an enlightened being already. It's like, don't strive so hard, don't try so hard, because the minute you try, you stifle. The minute you try, you're putting the thought in your head that the reason that you have to try is because you can't do it, when you're already doing it. You're already doing it. So the ancient school, the left-hand path of Kaula Spanda Pratibhijna, that form of Tantra, is accepting life in the sensuality of life and the desire in life to invigorate your being and invigorate you and propel you, rather than stifling all these energies that someone told you was wrong, or that someone told you might be some kind of entity or whatever. But feeling this energy that permeates the universe, you get all kinds of sensations and healing shit going in your body. It starts flowing. And then you realize, when you get to a certain point, you realize that the energy that's coming through you is manifesting as you. It's manifesting as what you call you. It's manifesting as your physical being. It's manifesting as your mind. It's manifesting as your ego, who you call yourself, whatever your name is, whether it's whatever name, Mary, Joe, whatever name you that you're using. I hope it's not one of those names. Just kidding. But whatever name you're using, and however you identify yourself, and however you conceive of yourself, your cognitive abilities, that's not who you really are. That's a apparition, kind of, because let's not forget, everything that we learn from somebody else. Everything that we learned about life, we learned from somebody else. Everything that's been taught us as to do's and don'ts, we learn from somebody else. Everything that has been taught us about acceptability and unacceptability and the duality has been given to us from somebody else. So we are a composite of all the people that have indoctrinated and talked to us all our life, and at times supposedly tried to guide us in the right directions, like parents and like, social schooling and religion and all that stuff. Supposedly they know all the answers. Problem is, they got all their learning from somebody else, just like you do. So in order to break that vicious chain, that vicious cycle, you need to step outside the box and do things like practice Tantra. Do things like feel free on a level of sex, or on a level of how you conduct yourself with no guilt or no fear, and realize that everything is sacred. The sacred and the profane are both sides of the same coin, because everything is sacred. The profane only manifests in our minds as a duality, as a dark side of duality, or not to go there. This can really cause problems for you in life. It can cause problems because you're still associated with that fear, that guilt. And see, this is exactly what's happening in society right now, is that the powers to be know how to manipulate that aspect of your consciousness. They manipulate it with fear and guilt. They always have. From day one, from early religious training. But that is all a sham too. I won't go into that now because I've gone into it before, but religion is a sham as well, okay? And it was brought here for the specific purpose of stifling your own ability to decide things for yourself, what you want, and to be a free spirit. Tantra is about being a free spirit. Tantra is about loving consciousness. Tantra is about letting life, not only you desiring life, but life desiring you, life loving you, life nurturing you. You nurture life, life nurtures you. You let the energy from life flow through you, you let the energy from yourself flow out. It's all one. It's a circular situation. So as you can see, Tantra is more about a way of looking at things and feeling things, or just letting yourself know what you already know. Letting yourself be free, letting yourself not be hung up by any kind of concept in regards to what is right and what is wrong. That's the duality. When you realize that life is a duality and that there is beyond the duality, where none of this matters, there is no right and wrong, it's all down in a certain dimension or in a certain dimension. Okay, but once you transcend, once you do a transcendence on a spiritual or conscious level and get a higher vibration going and realizing that this is all just kind of like a virtual reality, and where do you want it to go? Where do you want it to go? Well, you're driving the bus. Okay, in a certain respect. You're driving the bus. Where are you driving it to? These are things that I just wanted to put out on this video today to just kind of jog you and get you thinking in a certain way. Get you out of the illusion of this world and its machinations and its evil, because there is evil in the world. But you can transcend evil because that's part of the duality. And you can heal yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually by shedding your skin just like a snake does and regrowing into a new reality, into a new concept. Allow yourself to imagine things you have never imagined before and realize that imagine a bunch of good things. Imagine paradise. Imagine where you'd like to live. Imagine where you're next to a lake or the beach or the mountains. Imagine that. Imagine the kind of world you would like to live in. Imagine the kind of partner you would like to have, or imagine the way you would like your partner to be more like. Imagine all this stuff with love and realizing that you're a projector. You're like a projectionist in a movie theater. You're a projector. And you project out and you receive in. And you project out and you receive in. As you breathe out, you create. As you breathe in, you re-energize. So that you have the ability to create. So I think I might leave it there today, some food for thought. I know I usually rail off on certain directions in the very low mundane level, and I've been guilty of that. And so today, I decided to try to uplift you and give you a little bit of knowledge and wisdom as to what I'm about, what I do, and how maybe that can help you, you know. It's always good to share information that you think might be helpful. So I'll leave it there. Adios.